Hey guys, I recently completed a 6-week Russian strength program to improve my acceleration and power. I imagine this is relevant to a lot of athletes out there, not only if you're a track sprinter like me, but also any sport that requires rapid acceleration. The program comes from a book written by Yuri Verkhoshansky. He's often referred to as the father of plyometrics. He created the shock method of training back in the 1960s. The program was originally written for an Olympic 200-meter runner he coached called Boris Zubov, whose first 30 meters was his weak point. It then evolved into a template for athletes in other sports, including football, rugby, and baseball. To measure the success of the program, I first did some baseline measurements, including a 40-meter sprint with Bluetooth timing gates, single broad jump, and 5 bound from a standing start. After the program, I tested them all again to see if they'd changed. I'm going to start with the results. I've been tracking my broad jump for the last indoor and outdoor track season, and it's been building nicely from around 235 up to 250 centimeters with a best of 256, just over 8'4". The standing 5 bound I only introduced in the second half of my outdoor season, and on 3 separate occasions I managed 12 meters 60. Finally, my 40 meter times with a 30 meter split. I use my Bluetooth timing gates for this, and they don't include any reaction time. At my best, I passed through 30 in around 4:22 and 40 meters in 5:35, which, if you assume constant speed in that last 10 meters, my 40-yard time would be around 4:95, if that means anything to you. After the program, I had 4 sessions to taper, in which time my broad jump improved to 262 centimeters, 2.3% further than my previous best. My standing 5 bound went right out to 13 meters, a 3.1% improvement. And finally, I clocked 5:25 for 40 meters, going through 30 in 4:17, which is around 700ths faster than any point in the summer, an improvement of 1.3% from only 6 weeks of training. I'm very happy with these times. I felt like there was some sort of ceiling in my 40-meter times, despite seeing my broad jump improve steadily all summer. Someone else could easily see a bigger improvement from a program like this and will probably handle the volume and intensity better than I did at the age of 37, assuming they have prior experience with plyometrics. So with all that out the way, hopefully you're eager to hear about the program. It has quite a simple structure. It's 2 sessions a week for 6 weeks, and it's a mixture of squats, jumps, including depth jumps, bounding, and hill sprints. Rather than go through it week by week, I want to go through by exercise so that you're able to see the progressions. Before starting the program, I spent 2 weeks familiarizing myself with some of the movements. I finished my outdoor track season, took a short break, and then did some 40-meter sprints, some bounding, and some back squats just to prepare my body for what's to come. For completeness, I also added in tempo runs for fitness and recovery, and upper body weights twice a week. Okay, so let's start with back squats. These featured in 5 of the 12 sessions and were always programmed first on a given day. Week 1 was just squats. There's some flexibility with the sets and reps, so I chose 2 series of 3 sets of 5 reps, and I was using 110 kilos at a body weight of 70. If you've never heard of a series before, don't worry, neither had I. You basically do 3 sets of 5 with your usual rest period, then you take a longer rest, up to 10 minutes, before doing another 3 sets of 5. He made it very clear that you're not to cut the rest periods short, as that completely changes the stimulus that he's trying to create. It's also an active rest, so going through unweighted versions of the movement or walking around between sets. Session 2 was 2 series of 10, 5, and 2 reps, and it's all based on a percentage of your 1 rep max. Thankfully, most sets went up nicely. Week 2 was 12, 10, 6, 5, again, all percentage based. Session 1 in weeks 5 and 6 were identical, 2 by 2 by 3 at 120 kilos. It's heavy as it's over 90% of your 1 rep max, but you're never grinding out reps because everything here is geared towards power, and peak power isn't hit if you're maxing out on weight. We'll stick with barbell squat variations for the next exercise. This time the weight drops to 50 to 60% of 1 rep max for squat jumps. 6 sets of 6 at 50% of 1 rep max, resetting every rep and focusing on peak acceleration on the way up. These appeared again in week 4, this time 4 sets of 8. It feels like 8 is an upper limit if you're doing explosive reps of something, and I could tell my power was already dropping off by rep 6. Then kettlebell squat jumps, I really like these. I always end up going too heavy for power development, and 15 kilos was the right blend of speed and strength. These only featured ones 3 by 3 by 8, and as with both the barbell squats and the squat jumps, these are always the first exercise of the day. There were two forms of bounds in the program, either 6 contacts or 10, both from a standing start. I preferred the 10 as it gave me time to build up momentum. I was a little underwhelmed when watching back the footage of myself because I look far less springy than I feel when doing them. Since the program was written by the inventor of the shock method, you're going to see depth jumps, and indeed it was the most commonly programmed exercise, featuring in 6 of the 12 sessions. Weeks 3 and 4 have a lower height. He wrote 75 centimeters, but I'm not an elite athlete, so I started at 63 and moved to 68 centimeters with a total of 40 jumps in each session. Depth jumps appeared again in the final 4 sessions. It was meant to be an eye-watering 1 meter 10, which I couldn't even do in my garage if I tried. Instead, I went to 76 centimeters, then up to 81. I regretted the choice of concrete as a landing surface. I got a mild case of patellar tendinitis in what was meant to be a session with 80 jumps in it. I iced my knee and thankfully could finish week 6, dropping the height back down and focusing on short ground contact times. The ideal depth jump should be no more than 0.2 seconds on the ground. I have a GoPro that shoots at 240 frames a second. Going frame by frame, I was seeing between 0.25 and 0.27 seconds ground contact time, with a clear drop off in performance when my knee flared up. Depth jumps are a serious exercise. When I was younger, my sprint coach spent about 18 months building us up to these, so if you are new to plyometrics, do not go straight into leaping off a stepladder. One of my warm-up exercises is pogo jumps for 3 sets of 20 seconds, and that's a nice introductory plyometrics exercise, focusing on ankle and knee stiffness and spending very little time on the ground. Finally, out to a local recreation ground for some uphill broad jumps and short sprints. I'm convinced these helped my single broad jump during the season, so I was happy to smash out 8 sets of them. I never worked out what was leaving me with insane DOMs in my core, but looking back, I feel like these uphill jumps may have been the culprit, so be warned. One tip is to think about being quick off the ground. Don't treat it like 10 single broad jumps, because there's an extra bit of distance to be unlocked if you work with that momentum. The uphill sprints were in weeks 4, 5, and 6. I chose 5 reps of 25 meters. These were always programmed last, so I didn't feel that amazing doing them, but it was nice enough to do the movement I was actually trying to improve. Overall, I was really pushing the limit of what my body can do, and in some cases going beyond it with the tendinitis. One of my main takeaways is that if you want to improve acceleration and power, you need a lot of rest. At first, I thought it was silly to walk around for 10 minutes between series, but then I realized that it really does matter if you're 98% recovered versus 100% recovered, because you're trying to tap into that absolute best performance. For the next sprint season, I will be ruthlessly cutting any junk volume and monitoring for any drop-off in performance, even if it's a few centimeters in my jumps or a few hundredths in my sprint times. I'd also like to introduce more plyometric progressions, maybe even using my GoPro to make sure that my ground contact times are where they need to be. I also have a habit of overcomplicating my programs. If there are 10 great leg exercises for sprinters, I want to try and include all 10. Here, I've just managed to reduce my 40 meter time without doing any front squats, step ups, rear leg elevated split squats, or RDL. So there's a lesson to be learned in simple programming. It also feels like bar velocity is a really important quality, varying the stimulus from the high-speed barbell squat jumps right down to the 95% of 1 rep max for heavy doubles, but never grinding out reps. It's easy to get sidetracked by squatting more weight and forgetting that bar speed, while harder to measure and track, is going to be more important for power development. I hope you found this video useful. I'm going to put the program up on the screen now, but please do not go diving into it without establishing a strong background in plyometrics. If you don't have the experience, this program will do more harm than good. I've been lifting weights for 20 years and sprinting for about 8, so my body has adapted to some of the high forces involved here, and yet I still manage to overdo it. Thank you for watching.